That's where it lives. It's not going to be. That's right.
So we're live to the internet now, so guard your tongue on anything you say around the camera.
And then Sandra, introducing that I got Jessica which was great. So he just I actually don't have business card because the town doesn't give up. Now they want us to. These are my old cards, but same contact information. So there you go. I did. It's a small world once you start talking, right? And I've been Korean. She is the executive Yes, yeah. Are they nice for working together? Oh, yes, okay. Wonderful, yeah. Good to see you. So glad you could come. Well, we can chat more, and I'm not even collaborate. Sorry.
Hi, Kathy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Good to see you too. Good to see you too. Would you rather? Okay. Great, well, that went as well. You timed it? Okay. You're short. You're like always banging. That's the best. We're going to see how that rolls. Yeah, so that's where
the game that Evo was playing over there. Oh, Abby, did you get that for me? I'm just teasing you. Yeah, exactly. No, I have to get my treats off the other table, but I'll go in a second, okay? But thank you so much for offering it. You're very good. Did your mom tell you that too?
Well, I guess I did put it on social that is a reality for sure.
Are we pretty well set, Steve? Okay. Steve actually is the first one, and then you, yeah. So it's not. No. Can't trust yellow when it might be. Shouldn't trust me. To be honest. I'm scared of the first thing. The kids didn't think so. Karaoke. Yeah, it took 29 years when she did it. Yes. Yes.
It's almost 10 past 7, so I think we will get underway. My name is Steve Duranisaris. I co-chair the Social Justice and Advocacy Committee here at Christ Church. And to start off, I'm going to call upon Reverend Don Davidson to lead us in a prayer.
Well, as is our tradition at all gatherings here at Christ Church, I'd like to begin actually with a land acknowledgement and then a prayer. We acknowledge that we are in the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, the Anishinaabe peoples, on whose land and by whose waters we gather to worship, listen, learn, share, and heal together. In the name of our Creator, the Holy One of blessing. Let us pray. Jesus, as an infant, you fled to Egypt with your mother Mary and Joseph. You were a vulnerable family in a foreign land, looking for shelter and sustenance. Help us to welcome those like you who cross our borders today. Give us hearts of compassion, humane response, and laws that respect the dignity of all. Amen. Amen.
So why this topic? Immigration has been an important topic of conversation for many years. No doubt our families all have their stories about immigration, whether in a recent generation or going back 100 years or more. It is a process that's been extremely important to Canada, to its growth and development since the time of Confederation. In my mind, immigration has made us and will continue to make us who we are as Canadians. Since Confederation, annual immigration numbers have ranged from 0.5% to more than 5% of the country's entire population. Until recently, the highest annual immigration rate in Canada occurred in 1913, when 400,900 new immigrants accounted for 5.3% of the total population. That number of new immigrants was exceeded in 2023 with 471,550 persons accounting for just 1.2% of the total population. Immigration has allowed Canada to become the country that it is today, to develop its diverse and multicultural character, to maintain and at times grow its population, to acquire talent needed in skilled or professional areas of employment and for workers needed in key areas of our economy, and to sustain our global humanitarian responsibilities. Reasons that those in other countries might want to immigrate to Canada would include such things as seeking a better life or to start a new life. Employment opportunities in skilled or professional areas of employment, in primary industries where workers are needed, or as caregivers. Some immigrants come as refugees, escaping strife or persecution, or to join family already in Canada. We will hear about the various immigration categories and related programs shortly. Through our panel presentation this evening, we hope to provide greater understanding about immigration, the challenges that immigrants face, the agencies that help with the settlement of newcomers, and how faith groups and individual members of our community can help prospective new Canadians feel welcome. So I will now turn things over to tonight's panel moderator, Kathy Perenik-McLean, who is the Director of Programs and Operations at Caledon Community Services. Kathy.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Steve, for having us here, and Father Don. I think it's a real opportunity when you called, asking for, sharing your idea and allowing CCS to be a part of this conversation. So I'm very excited to introduce you to our panel. You're going to see different facets around the newcomer journey. We have 4 panelists that'll talk, as well as we're going to have some stories from some newcomers and their own experiences. So hopefully this is an opportunity for us to learn, to ask questions. There'll be opportunity for that as well. And I really appreciate all of you being here this evening to share and start this conversation. Thank you. So I'm first going to introduce our panel, and then I'm going to hand it over to them to chat for a little bit of time. So the first person to introduce is Jessica Quick, to my right here. Did you know that there are more than 30 service organizations directly supporting newcomers? Jessica Quick is the director of the Peel Newcomer Strategy Group. You might hear us use acronyms like PNSG, which supports partnerships for newcomer services in Peel Region, including Caledon. PNSG is an initiative of United Way Greater Toronto. Also to my right, we have Art Recton. So Art is the manager of newcomer programs at Caledon Community Services. I've been working with him for a number of years. Art is also a certified project management professional and an Ontario certified English language teacher with first-hand experience as a newcomer to Canada. Throughout his career, Art has taught general English and specialized enhanced language training programs for immigrant professionals, progressively taking on leadership roles. He has extensive experience leading cross-functional teams in community-based language training, settlement, and employment programs that support newcomers in big urban centers such as Toronto and Mississauga, as well as small rural communities in York and Peel regions. With strong commitment to the field, Art has contributed to the Teaching English as a Second Language Association, TESOL, Ontario, in various capacities on the board of directors for a combined 8 years. His experience in program development and immigrant integration makes him a valuable voice in discussions on immigration and newcomer support. Beyond his professional work, Art enjoys exploring the great Canadian outdoors, for a bit of a fishing, as a fisherman, and embarking on long road trips. He has driven from the GTA to camp at Prince Edward Island National Park and is eager to explore Western Canada in the near future. That is Art. And to my left here, we have Corrine Strong. So Corrine founded Volunteer MBC in September 2008 and brought to the center a 30-year history in progressively senior management positions in the field of customer and community relations, corporate social responsibility, marketing and communications, travel event management, goodness, you've done all kinds of wonderful things in here, wow, and director for the Volunteer Mississauga Brampton Caledon. She also leads several tables in the sector across Peel region, and she co-leads the Ontario Volunteer Centre Network and is the past co-chair of Volunteer Canada Volunteer Centre Council. She started volunteering in Caledon shortly after arriving from Belgium in 1978 and has been on boards for more than 2 decades and currently serves as the board chair for Bright Start Caledon Family Centre. She is the chair of the Town of Caledon Age Friendly Committee and leads the Older Adult Volunteer Working Group. For the past 13 years, she has also been a speaker on the United Way GTA Speaker Bureau. She has dedicated her personal life to volunteering to try to make a difference in her community. She's passionate about creating inclusive communities and loves inspiring people by sharing how she found her purpose in life through volunteerism. Thank you, Corrine. And the last one on the end here, we're fighting over who sits where, is Sandra Sharp. Sandra has a long and progressive career in municipal government, working with elected representatives, senior administration, not-for-profit, social service agencies, and community stakeholders with a shared goal of creating inclusive communities. Throughout her career, she has gained experience in developing and implementing communication, conflict resolution, and public engagement strategies, facilitating complex, multifaceted discussions, collaborative conversations, and fostering positive stakeholder relations. As the co-chair of IDEA Caledon, Sandra will share her insights and experience around inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your panel for our discussion tonight. So we also have some guests that are going to share some stories a little bit later, but I'll do those introductions after our panel. So I'm going to turn it over first to Jessica from the Field and Cover Strategy Group.
Thanks so much, Kathy. We have some slides here, so hopefully that helps for visuals. Just want to thank Reverend John and Steve as well for the warm welcome to join in this presentation. And the land acknowledgement in particular resonates because the Indigenous peoples I see as really valuing that welcoming. So I bring that value to speak about immigration and its importance. So I'll speak briefly about why immigration is important, which I think Steve alluded to as well. And I'll talk a little bit of an overview of the process of immigration and bring some thoughts about welcoming communities as well. So just no worries if the slides don't work. We can always skip them. So just thinking about immigration and just why it's important. One key piece is around our population demographics, and once the slide works, we'll see a slide about our how the baby boomers were a nice big bulge in our population demographic chart, if you will. But as they get older, we're not seeing another bulge coming forward into the future. So without that, we do need immigration to support the renewal of our population. Great. So in terms of the process of immigration, I just want to mention that there's three main processes that I'll talk about. The first is the selection. So the government selects who can come to Canada to stay as a non-permanent resident or a permanent resident. And so we've seen over the years that the non-permanent resident has quite grown, thinking of international students, temporary foreign workers, those on special permits like the Ukrainians. And so with that growing number of non-permanent residents, we've seen quite a jump in numbers, but we usually count the permanent residents, and those are those people who wish to stay here in Canada permanently. And they're usually selected based on their contributions to the economy, maybe family reunification. I know that we benefited from that in my family with my grandparents coming over, and thinking also about the humanitarian efforts to really support those who need to come because of refugee status, for example. Apart from the selection process, there's a screening process that the government takes as well to screen those who are in good health, have not committed serious crimes, and don't pose a security risk. So that health and safety piece is really primary for Canada as well. And then the final piece is around success. How can we make newcomers successful in their journey to feel more a part of our community? And so that success really relies on things about how they can adapt into the community. And I think the services that you'll hear about are so key. And we, as you've heard, there's about 30 different services in the Peel region and in Caledon, really important with Caledon Community Services here. And we really try to be that glue as part of the local immigration partnership to really connect the settlement services with other services, whether it be healthcare, mental health, and other services like schooling and education. And just to summarize, we have to ask what makes people feel connected. And I think it's really basic, that you need a home, you need a role or a job, and you need a friend. And I think conversations like this can really help emphasize that friendship piece and how we can really find those connections among ourselves. So I'll leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Jessica, very much. And we will be opening up for Q&A following the discussion. So just keep your questions, and we'll all be here to support. Next up, we have Art. Art, if you could.
My slides work?
Oh, they're working. Good stuff.
That's great. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Arthur King, and I work at Caledon Community Services, and I oversee newcomer programs. Before we dive into it, I wanted to introduce the organization a little bit. You may have heard or used our services that range from transportation to health and wellness programs to adult programs, independent living, assisted living, employment services, or maybe you have shopped at our thrift store that CCS operates, or maybe you have heard of our exchange hub, the community hub where the food support program is housed, and many community providers, many community organizations, community partners come there to run events and special occasions. But today we're going to focus on the newcomer programs only. So first of all, it's language instruction for newcomers to Canada. This is a federally funded language training program for permanent residents and convention refugees. It's standardized curriculum delivered by certified instructors, and it addresses all 4 language skills: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. As well, it teaches daily skills, daily life skills in Canada, about the daily activities and daily routines, including digital literacy, because most of our services are delivered virtually or in HyFlex, hybrid environment, where some clients are in classroom with the instructor and others join virtually through Zoom. But they're essentially going through the same activities and sharing the same learning experiences. So HyFlex, it stands for hybrid and flexible. We run part-time classes 3 times a week. We use a combination of teacher-led and self-paced activities so that our learners don't have to sit in front of a computer screen for 5 hours a day. And that also gives them an opportunity to do other tasks involving settlement and looking for work and other things that are important for any newcomer to do. If they're full-time in classes, they might not be able to do that. They're going to be missing out on one or another, but our format allows them to learn at their own pace. Another component of our newcomer programs is A Cafe. It's kind of a Canadianism, right? A, but it really stands for English Help. English Help Cafe. This is a type of an English conversation circle program. It's a friendly environment, non-judgmental, supportive, led by our qualified volunteers who encourage people to speak up, because it serves a dual purpose. It provides that friendly environment, supportive environment to improve conversational skills, but it also alleviates the negative effects of social isolation. Many newcomers, as they arrive, especially in rural areas like Caledon, they may not have many opportunities to go out, to find other speaking opportunities, other people to speak, to communicate with. And this program is run by volunteers. We currently offer it virtually every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and in person we partner with Caledon Public Library at the Southwood location for now. And we run those conversation circles in person every Monday from 1 to 2:30. And we're looking for volunteers. If you're wondering pardon?
Shameless plug. Hint, hint, hint.
If you're wondering, what can I do? What can we do as a community to make the newcomers welcome? Well, this is one way. I'm sure that there will be more information about volunteering opportunities later down the presentation discussion. But it's a great program. How we do this all online, especially with those who have low language skills? Well, we have somebody who is called a digital navigator. That's a position that was specifically designed to support everyone, all our clients, with technology skills and then technology skills development and digital literacy development. So that particular person will meet with every client to understand what kind of devices they're using, what their skill level is, where their gaps are, what could be the opportunities for them to improve, and so on. They will work in group settings as well as individually. And that's how we make it work, even with literacy clients. Those who never learned to read or write in their first language, they are now learning English online, and they're loving it. Because digital skills have become part of life skills too. They're not just learning the language, they're learning how to use Gmail, how to navigate the internet, how to use a browser, how to make the best of it, the most of it. And so on, how to jump on a Zoom call, because it's ubiquitous nowadays. Everywhere, everything is on Zoom, virtual. The third component is settlement services. And what are those? Settlement is probably one of the most misunderstood words by newcomers. It has multiple meanings. So the biggest challenge for any newcomer is they're facing an issue. They don't know what they don't know. And they can't even ask questions about it. So when they meet with our settlement workers, they go through a needs assessment to understand what kind of, whether they need to enroll the children in schools, or they need help navigating the healthcare system, or how to get a driver's license, how to get a SIM card, or a health card, and so forth, and so on. Individual settlement plans will be developed for each client, outlining the steps they need to take. Follow-up will also be provided if somebody gets stuck at a certain step. They can always count on us to help them move ahead, move forward. We will refer them to employment services that CCS also offers. We will, if CCS is currently running 8 classes, including evening classes.
Yeah. So we've really seen the changes in the community, and so it's very exciting that we're here to be able to share those resources. I would be remiss in saying that a lot of this information you can find on our website. Donna, I'm saying that for you, ccsfornew.org. Shameless plug as well. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at any of our doors, and we will find the right connection point for you. So thank you, Art. Next, yes, definitely. Thank you. So now I'd like to turn it over to Corinne.
Thank you. I also have some slides. My name is
Bring the microphone a little closer, Corinne.
Oh, sure. My name is Corinne Strong, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm so pleased to be with you this evening. I wanted to start by also acknowledging that I am a settler on this land, on the treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. And I'm truly grateful to be able to work on this land. And it's my personal commitment, and it's our collective commitment as an organization, to learn about the history and the harms against the Indigenous peoples of Canada, and to strive to make a really positive difference. And that includes an absolute commitment to help each other to serve the community that we live in and that we call home. Are you able to bring up this? It was
We tried.
working before. So it's kind of hard to do without the visuals, but I'll try. So professionally, I am the executive director, as Kathy mentioned, of Volunteer MBC. That stands for Mississauga, Brampton, and Camden. And we're your local volunteer center. And before that, I spent almost 30 years at Husky Injection Molding Systems, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with in various management roles. And on the personal side, my wonderful husband, Bob, and I have a daughter who's a teacher locally. And we have, we're very grateful to have two beautiful grandchildren that we love very much and we get so much enjoyment out of. Plus, by my volunteering, through my volunteering, I'm very, very blessed to have a really extended family of the people that make this entire community and that I am so grateful to call home. And for this next slide, I wish I could kind of and even my okay, so this is an image of me as a bride coming to Canada, full of hope, adventure, love, and optimism. But 46 years ago, when I was a new bride, and my husband Bob brought me all the way from Belgium to Canada. And when you look at our wedding photo, if it ever comes up, I had a really long veil. And that veil was really symbolic of the journey that I was about to undertake. There was that sense of real adventure, but there were also so many unknowns. And something that always stuck with me was my dad's advice when I left. And he said, you know, always make your time count. And in hindsight, that was such great advice that he gave me. And it's always stayed with me. So the reality, though, of being a newcomer is that it really tests that optimism when you come. And I'm sure the newcomers in the group here will contest to that. Things where I came from in Belgium, it's a very small country, were very different. Everyone was very closely tied together, all connected through our churches and you know, the pubs that we had, which were adjacent to, it was a community gathering and everyone gathered there. And when I was now faced with this completely new environment, I had to learn a whole new, this Canadian culture. Everything was so far spread. You didn't know, like back then, there was no internet, there was no Google search, so I had to take my driver's lessons when I came here, and none of these settlement services were available at that time. And so it was very different. I remember being so grateful for my immediate neighbors because their support came in so handy. I've always lived in the Bolton community. I've lived in 3 homes and I'm now on the North Hill. But back then, my neighbors were a nurse and a paramedic, and they were older. And they really made me feel welcome, and they helped me so much because I think it was within the first 8 months of when I got married, my husband was rushed to the hospital, and I was very fortunate when I landed here that I was able to get employment. Not exactly in my field. I was a translator, I had a linguistics degree, but I was able to find employment at Husky Injection Molding Systems, which held a lot of international individuals. So I was very lucky from that perspective. But when this happened to my husband, it was so unexpected, and I had to learn all about the hospital system. And while his family was extremely, extremely helpful to me, it was my neighbors who were always there to sort of point me in the right direction. You know, it resulted in my husband being paralyzed from the waist down for about 8 months. And we had a mortgage and we had bills to pay. He couldn't work. I was working by myself, trying to take care of him. And so at that point, you know, I was probably at my lowest because I I couldn't really tell my family that this was happening. They would have been so worried, so I couldn't tell my mom and dad. So it was just really, really scary times, and that's sort of where I felt myself spiraling, and I thought, I've got to do something because this is not going to end well. And I remembered my dad saying, make sure that you make your time count. So a neighbor asked me if I wanted to come to church with her. And I slowly started to build connections and make friends and build a bit of a network. And it really, really helped me because it then forced me to get out of my shell and to start helping in the community. And that's really where my volunteer journey in Canada began. I was a Eucharistic minister, and I would go to shut-ins and deliver communion, and so got to know a lot of people, and it really helped me to, build my journey as I was going forward. But no two newcomer stories are ever the same, and for some, other very common barriers, and I've mentioned some of them, are language, right? And the skills and the employability, you don't have the same credentials, you have concerns, especially this was very much the case for me, for your loved ones back in the homeland, right? Because who's going to take care of them? Who's going to, be there when they need your help? So, and that's something that, I've been here so many years now, but it always stays that scary kind of feeling that, oh, what if something goes wrong, and it never leaves. And also, I was the only one coming to Canada, but there's many newcomers that come with families, that come with dependents, even with their parents, and so there's that really juggling act. And above all, I think it's that lack of community, that where they came from in their homeland, obviously they had all those, systems built around them. So overcoming these challenges isn't easy, but it really happens when you start making those connections, when you start developing new skills, because maybe the skills that you have from back home, maybe you have to rethink that. Sharing your skills and your talents that you have, because we all have them, and making good use of your opportunities that come your way. And newcomers do that when they have that real sense of community around them. Be that in the library, a space, community center, community organizations. There's so many places where they can gather and start to find that community. And, very importantly, and this is a very shameless plug, but by volunteering. And, I'm very grateful that one of my board members, Musa Bello, who will share his story later on, but he will tell you his newcomer story, and so it's really, for him, it's also been very much through volunteering that he's got to really get to know the community. So who are we? As I continued my journey of volunteering throughout my career at Husky, and then when the company was sold to an investment firm, after almost 30 years, I was terminated. And through my volunteer connections at Caledon Community Services, I was able to found Volunteer MBC, which was very close to my heart. It stands for Volunteer Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon. And we're a collective comprised of about 200 member organizations, including many in the community, in the Caledon Community Services. And what we do for them is we work with the nonprofits to address barriers that people face, to make volunteers feel welcome. So we're that kind of the matchmaker, right? We offer the volunteer opportunities, and they're all listed on our website. We help individuals, including newcomers, but certainly all community members, find those perfect volunteer opportunities with these community service organizations that can really use their skills. And we make people aware of the value of volunteers and provide that learning and the networking opportunities to strengthen the community service organizations. But what we want more than anything is we want to make our community connected so that no one is lonely. And you know, that I'm very passionate about that because I experienced what loneliness was when I first came here, and I've never forgotten that. And I always think that newcomers that come today, regardless of how many family members they're able to bring with them, they have that same sense of loneliness. It's just that you can't get away from it. So we definitely emphasize the benefits of volunteering, and therefore, not only do the volunteers serve the community, but Volunteer BC serves the volunteers by giving them opportunities to improve their health and well-being, to improve their skills and employability, and also their community belonging. So for me, volunteering is like a triple win, right? Because volunteers help make the community better, make a difference in the community. They help the nonprofit organizations like Caledon Community Services, but in the process, they very much help themselves because the benefits that you get from volunteering lead to much better health and you know that belonging and that sense of responsibility and the sense of knowing, you know, your purpose, that you can really get through volunteering. So community connectedness achieved from volunteering deepens social networks, and it does reduce social isolation. Volunteering is associated with lower mortality rates, and people that volunteer have a longer life expectancy. Volunteering just up to 100 hours a year isn't all that much, led to better health, less dementia, and lower mortality. And volunteering makes you happy. You know, the measuring of hormones and the brain activity, researchers have discovered that being helpful to others delivers immense pleasures, right? And so we always say at Volunteer BC, when you do good, you feel good. And it's as simple as that. So because volunteering also helps to combat depression. It keeps you in regular contact with other people. You develop that social support system, and in turn, it really protects you. And that's something that, you know, everyone is looking for. So we actually have a newcomer project. It's called Newcomer Volunteers on the Block, and we just started this project in partnership with Peter Newcomer Strategy Group, Jessica, and it's supported by United Way Greater Toronto. And in this work, we're going to be collaborating with nonprofit organizations that serve newcomers to share about volunteering and how it can be a really great platform to help them make those connections. And all sectors need to really help to uplift and empower volunteerism. Lately, you know, we've even been doing a lot of work on prescribing, social prescribing, you know, encouraging doctors and healthcare professionals to encourage them to volunteer to get rid of, you know, their social barriers and their illnesses. The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members. We get into volunteering because we want to give to others, but we stay in it because of the benefits that we accrue, about how it makes us feel and how it gives us that sense of purpose and value to volunteering. And it's up to us to help people make that first step, to connect them. Because every match that we make is just one more piece of the network that helps to create communities that we all want to live in and be part of. All of us are here for a reason. We're all blessed with very unique gifts and to serve others. We need to take good care of each other, and most importantly, love and respect each other. You know, my dad used to say, nothing else matters. A Gucci purse is not going to be holding your hand when you take your final breath. So what is your legacy going to be? And as I look at my dad's watch, I'm often reminded that every day the clock keeps ticking, and there's still so much to do. to make Caledon that beautiful, inclusive place to live and where everyone feels like they truly belong. So I'm asking you, can we each make just a small commitment to take action? And what does that look like? How do you make your time count? You can help newcomers, welcome new neighbors, take the time to get to know them, be their guide and support, invite them with you to community events, share services that the community has to offer, be their advocate, stand up for them, volunteer your time with a settlement nonprofit organization. Ask newcomers, friends, to join the organization that you volunteer with, because truly the future rests in your helping hands. Thank you.
Karine, I'm always moved when you speak because you weave your story into something that I think we can all relate to, and it's part of that journey helps people understand what someone new coming into our community might experience. So I really appreciate you sharing your story, and I also just want to highlight some of the things that Karine has been talking about around collaboration. And so when I look around the room and I see all these faces of people who may come across someone who needs some support, who needs some help. And by being here tonight, you're able to hear that there are supports across the board in this community and across this table. I sit at many tables as well, and I see these faces at many of those tables because we're all genuinely here to have an impact, to help somebody. And I think that motivation, comes through in all of the work that we do individually, but as a collective, and then as community members. So we have different roles, different hats we wear, but I think it's so important that as we're out in community, even if it's not this community, it's a different community, to have an understanding of where you can direct people and where they can go to ask the questions and find the resources that they need. And one of those collaborators that CCS, myself, have been working with for many years is the town of Caledon. And our next panelist, Sandra, is going to share a collaborative that she's working with called Idea Caledon, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing it.
Thank you so much, Kathy, and what an honor it is to be here, and especially to be up here with such a group of caring, amazing, compassionate people who are really contributing to the Caledon community in just a beautiful way. So thank you all for everything you do. So as Kathy mentioned, I'm involved in an organization called Idea Caledon. And Idea Caledon is both an acronym and an action. So IDEA stands for inclusion, diversity, equity, and accessibility. And I say it's action because it is a table of leaders in the community that don't want to just sit around and talk. They want action. They want to make change. They want to make Caledon a more inclusive community. And I want to recognize, I'm a co-chair representing the town of Caledon at this thought leadership table, and Caledon Community Services is the other co-chair, and really was the catalyst to this group starting and getting together. So I want to acknowledge the great work that Caledon Community Services does. The other organizations that are involved, I'm going to start from the bottom because Volunteer NBC is an active member. Karine is a leader at that table, a very valuable leader at that table. Punjabi Community Health Services. Malton Women Council is a new member, a really exciting new member. The Ontario Provincial Police. Caledon Meals on Wheels, which I'm shamelessly going to plug because I'm their chair. Caledon Public Library, Caledon Dufferin Victim Services, Caledon Fire and Emergency Services, Bethel Hospice, Bright Start Caledon Family Center, obviously Town of Caledon, Caledon Community Services. So those are the organizations that every month meet for just a little under half a day, and we have big conversations. We turn those conversations into actions. So some of the really amazing things that we've done over the last 2 years since I've been involved, we held the very first Pride Walk in Caledon. Last year we did a Pride Family Picnic. We held the first ever multicultural festival here in Bolton, October 4th, huge success. And mark your calendars, October 4th, Humber River Center for our second annual multicultural festival. Food, fun, culture, just a big celebration. So I talked about big conversations, and I want to touch on that a little bit, because when we're talking about making our community more welcoming and more inclusive, it starts with the organizations that provide the services and programs that newcomers use when they're here. And when we talk about newcomers, that we're talking about a 5-year cycle. These aren't just people that just came last month. It's the process is a long process. Jessica, you and I have spoken about that before. I think it's 5 years. Is that right? Okay. So they're here, and they're utilizing programs and services. So we were talking at the Idea Caledon table, not the last meeting, the meeting before, just shortly after the US election. And we talked about the influence of leadership and how that trickles down. So we were talking about some of the narratives that have come out of the new administration in the US, and I'm going to speak frankly, as I usually do, that some of the comments around diversity, equity, and inclusion, some of the mistruths, some of the really just outlandish things, attaching diversity, equity, and inclusion to really negative narratives has trickled down. And you're seeing large corporations dropping DE&I, under the saving money, verbiage, and it's trickling down, and it goes global, federal, provincial, and then it can even go down to municipal. But I can tell you that the town of Caledon remains a very committed community to belonging and inclusion. I'm very grateful for that. But it's created this permission space where it's okay to not have DE&I programs, and that affects service delivery. That affects service delivery that newcomers and other vulnerable people in the community rely every day on. So for me, leadership matters. It matters a lot, and where we are in the world matters a lot. And that's why community is so important. Karine talked about her neighbors and about how they got her through when she was new to this country. Father Don talked about, I think he said, hearts of compassion. I would add hearts of courage with that. That we have to, and faith communities play such a big role in this. We have to say, if we are saying we're a welcoming community, we have to walk that, really walk that, and show that. And events like what we're having here this evening, I think, really demonstrate that. So I want to thank Christchurch for hosting today. I did have a couple of slides that showed the homelands of Caledon, just to give you a little bit of a snapshot, and some of the languages, but just for fun. Other than our two official languages, French and English, does anyone know what the next most popular language is in the town of Caledon? Hazard a guess, anybody?
Italian.
Punjabi?
Italian.
Yeah. No, but you said Italian? That's the second. So Punjabi is the first, Italian is the second, Spanish, which actually really surprised me. Spanish is the third. Tamil, Gujarati, and Hindi. So there you are. Thank you very much, Kathy. Back to you.
There's a lot of great information that's shared, and Sandra, the work that we've done with IDEA, the work that you've done with that committee, and just the partners and the collaborators that have been pulled together, it really, to me, demonstrates the commitment that exists regardless of the narrative that might be out there. And I also just wanted to just touch on one thing around that leadership piece that you talked about. I've always been a firm believer that leadership isn't about a title. It isn't about a name that you give yourself as a leader. I think we can all lead by example. And it's sometimes a very difficult road to take when it's not necessarily the most popular road to take. But I think, I've been a resident of Caledon for a lot of years. Won't say because definitely date myself. But I didn't grow up here, but I certainly raised my family here. And I think it's such a critical piece of this community to be open and to welcome people to the community and be supportive of them in the community and with the community. So I appreciate everyone on the panel for sharing parts of their journey, parts of their story, but also in terms of the road that we took in our support of our Caledon people. So I again, thank you again to the church for pulling this together and bringing us together so that we can share. And the sharing doesn't stop here. So what you've heard tonight, you can take with you and you can share it with a friend and you can tell a colleague. Because I think that's how we begin to let the community know where we are, where we're at, and where we stand. So that it speaks volumes that you're here tonight to share this with us. We also have some other people here tonight who are going to share their stories and their journeys. The first person that I'd like to give a brief introduction to is to Olu Lashabikan. Atobo. Did I get it? Yeah. Oh, I tried so hard. I'm sorry if I didn't quite get it right, but Olu is a Christchurch parishioner, and her family are from Nigeria. She and her husband started their immigration application in December 2019, and they moved to Canada in January 2021. So, Olu, would you like to come up and share your story? And I think we're going to have you sit over here at this microphone.
All right, so I am officially in panic mode. It's a great group.
Best friends.
Bring the microphone a little closer, Oleg. Thank you.
So it all started back in 2018. A friend who had recently, as at then, relocated to Canada, encouraged us to start the process. At the time, we didn't think there was any point in, immigrating, because we were doing well in our home country, Nigeria. We were traveling around the world, going on holidays. But something happened to my daughter and my husband in 2018. If I give more details, she would remember, but I'll try not to. And at that point, we realized that our safety was not really guaranteed. A lot was happening, roads were unsafe, kidnappings, armed robberies, I'm trying not to go into too many negative details there. But other than that, she, again, at that time didn't seem to be getting the kind of education and exposure that my husband and I had while growing up back in the day. So we thought, it was a wise decision to just relocate at that point. We started our process in January 2019. We created an Express Entry profile, wrote and passed the International English Language Testing System exam, IELTS, and we got into the pool and we're, hoping that the CRS scores will be favorable, but unfortunately the scores were going up and it was getting more difficult. Fortunately for us, our profile we got an invitation from OINP, the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, under the Human Capital Priority Stream to submit an application for provincial nomination. And we did that back in July 2019. The application was approved within 2 months and we got an extra 600 points. This boosted our CRS scores, and in October 2019, we got the ITA, Invitation to Apply, officially from IRCC. We submitted our application in December, did our medicals, and we're waiting for the application to be approved. But unfortunately, that was when COVID happened, and everything kind of, got stalled. Back then I applied for GCMS notes, and we realized that our application was ready for visa, but because of COVID, nothing was happening. Further down the line, once everybody knew what was going on with COVID and what to do, our visas were issued and we moved to Canada in January 2021. It's been 4 years and we are now officially Canadians. We're so excited and so proud that we took that journey. Has moving to Canada been easy? No. A couple of things that people don't seem to realize with immigration is that you're leaving everything you know, everything you've worked for, everybody you know, and you're moving to a new country. You're moving to a place with new rules, new cultures, new weather, new terrains, unfamiliar work cultures and processes, and in some cases, racism. Everything is different and you have to adapt very quickly. You're moving to a country where you would very likely not know anybody, and if you do, somehow, they may not necessarily be in the same region or province as you would be. You have to fend for yourself and find your way. You have to form a new village for yourself, and that's very hard to do. Is immigration easy? No. It's hard in the sense that for most people, and that also includes me, you have no support, no family to fall back on. You're basically on your own. Now, I must say that this community Bolton has been very fantastic. However, it's not always the same for everybody when you move to a new country. For a country like Canada, where they believe in having Canadian experience over everything else, it kind of makes things difficult. My husband and I are both in the IT field, and in the 4 years that we've been in Canada, we've not gotten any IT roles. And this is really what a lot of people face. We're working, we're not relying on government benefits, we pay our bills, we pay our taxes, and as far as we can tell, we're living fine. However, I believe that if things were different and if there weren't so many restrictions in place, and if we were able to get jobs that actually do match our qualifications and experience, we would definitely believe in a better life. Personally, I have had to put my family first because I don't have the needed support in Canada. I have had to stick with looking for remote work so that I'm available to take the children to school, get them back home, and be around for them. And this wasn't something that I had to really concern myself with back home because we had family, we had help. And looking for remote jobs kind of puts a limit on the kind of jobs and roles that I can apply for. And you may wonder why this is kind of like an issue, but back home, about 90% of the workforce work on site, Monday to Friday, 8 to 4, or maybe 8 to 5. However, in Canada, everyone seems to work different days, different schedules, different shifts, as companies and organizations tend to run 24/7. This makes it difficult to socialize or meet with friends or family, which in itself is enough to put a strain on any relationship and could lead to depression. In my case, my work schedule is kind of like the exact opposite of my husband's own, and it makes him less likely to be available to, take the kids to school, bring them back home and all of that. So I kind of have to make sure that I am available and, switch things around. And without any support system on ground, it leaves me with only the options of working remotely, limiting what I can and cannot do. Are there challenges? I would say numerous, because a lot of organizations don't really consider the struggles of immigrants when searching for new employees. The moment they realize that you have more or less experience than they desire, or that you cannot be as flexible as they would like because of your circumstances, they don't hire you. I have applied for nothing less than 300 roles, and I have only been invited for interviews 3, maximum 4 times in the last 4 years. And in my opinion, I think one of the reasons would be once they see a name that they can barely pronounce, or notice that you have education or work experience outside of Canada, there's a high tendency of kind of moving your application to the back burner. I have spoken with a lot of immigrants, and the struggles are pretty much the same all around, with no company or employer really wanting to take that chance on you. So some of the differences here, the houses are smaller, the walls are thinner, and I say that because sometimes you might be having a conversation in your apartment, but people outside might be hearing you. Kind of different from what it is back home. Like you could conveniently have a loud conversation at home, but nobody outside is hearing you. So, and then back home, there's a whole lot more space, bigger houses, bigger compounds than here. And I don't know if this is just Bolton or generally in Canada. Public transportation is not readily available per se, and private transportation is expensive, especially when you're including like insurance and all of that. Using an Uber is, also expensive. But generally being in Ontario makes it difficult to save because everything is expensive. And from my own perspective, it's almost impossible, or maybe let me say it's very difficult to buy a house. In a lot of other provinces, based on conversations that I've had with other immigrants, you find immigrants purchasing houses within the first couple years of getting to Canada, because the cost of the houses are a little more attainable, $400,000, $500,000. But in Ontario, you have houses going for $1 million and up. And it makes things really difficult. I know we've talked about settlement agencies. You might ask if I have received support or resources. And I have tried in the past. I have spoken with a couple people, submitted a couple applications through iAdvance Pathways, ICTC. Does that sound familiar? Yes. Okay. And also actually through CCS. And I actually even applied for roles within those organizations as well, but yeah. The truth is that the only thing, in my opinion, the only thing that these bodies can do is guide you. Like they can't make the employers employ you. And unless you're doing maybe like a volunteer or something, you can't really get Canadian experience unless you actually do get a job. So it's kind of hard. Now, has it all been bad? Absolutely not. I have enjoyed excellent medical care, having 2 surgeries in the past 4 years. I have enjoyed a more secure environment for my family. And having access to paid maternity leave. In my case, I had 12 months maternity leave. I didn't have that back home. So yeah, that's definitely something to be grateful for. And the monthly child, Canada Child Benefits, that also makes things a little bit easier. But generally, the Bolton community has been fantastic. That's the one thing that I want to put in there. Knowing everything that I know now, will I move back to Canada? Yeah, definitely. The truth is, everybody knows that immigrating is challenging, but you never really know how challenging it is until you experience it yourself. It's kind of like pregnancy. Everybody theoretically knows the challenges and the pain involved, but unless you personally feel the pains and experience the challenges, you could never truly understand. If IRCC and the Canadian government deem us worthy of being educated and skilled enough to apply for immigration, then companies and employers too should deem us worthy enough of the same and not discriminate. They should encourage companies to look for the value in us rather than looking for Canadian work experience. The customer base and market is global, therefore the workforce should be represented by this. We're still hoping for better job opportunities, better income, and generally a brighter future for ourselves and the children. And for every other individual.
Ruth, thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing your story and your honesty of your experience. I think we can definitely chat. But I think, you know, you've highlighted some of the key things that we've heard from our clients, and having you share your honesty is just very much appreciated. So thank you, Olu. Next up on our list is another story, and this story is from Musa Bello. Hopefully I'm going to get all of these words right. So if you want to come on up here. So in 2023, Musa made the bold decision to relocate to Canada, prioritizing family while seamlessly transitioning his legal career. He immersed himself in Canadian law, joining King's League, Jasu Orobo and Associates, I apologize, and undertaking the law practice program at Toronto Metropolitan University. His stellar performance secured him a competitive legal internship with Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicine. Beyond law, Musa actively champions community development. He serves on multiple boards, including Volunteer Mississauga Brampton Caledon and the North Peel and Dufferin Community Legal Clinic. He has recently been admitted to the Executive Committee of the Legal Clinic and currently serves as the board secretary. Musa, over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope my voice is not too loud because I naturally have a loud voice. So I came here this evening, leaving my wife at the Bridge Clinic. She's undergoing a surgery. I came straight from the hospital not to miss this appointment. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'll just start with, I'm told I have just 5 to 7 minutes, so I won't go beyond that. But I just want to start with a verse from the Bible, Matthew 22, verse 39, which says, love your neighbor as yourself. When Jesus was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And he said, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And I see this, if that's the only commandment that everybody should abide with, forget about the other commandments, then the world will be a better place. What is love your neighbor as yourself? You love yourself, you know what you can do for yourself, right? As my colleague had rightly said, it doesn't really happen back in Africa, including government officials, when monies are allocated to do roads or to fix hospitals or whatever. People put in their pockets to go and buy houses abroad, right? So you see one man having 10 houses or 20 houses. What are you going to do with it? Now you come to this part of the world, and my wife is in the hospital. She's having a hysterectomy, whatever, a very dangerous and risky surgery because she's had 3 CS, childbirth, right? And she's done. She just completed it yesterday night. Was still in the hospital. But back home, people, the money for the hospitals and for other things, people just embezzle it and put it in their pockets and use it to go and buy houses. So that's why when you abide by that commandment, love your neighbor as yourself, everything will go smoothly. Like she rightly said, as at December 2022, I didn't even know if I would be in Canada. I was still in Nigeria just trying to know if I would come to Canada or not. But by 2023, I was here immediately. And once I got in here, that same love your neighbor as yourself was my guiding principle. Fine, we all need jobs and everything, right? But I knew that I needed to also contribute to my community. And that's why the first thing I did was to search, I live in Brampton. So I put on Google volunteering in Brampton. And the first thing that came up was volunteer NBC, volunteer Brampton Mississauga Caledon. And I saw the vacant position for member of Social Inclusion Committee. I applied and I got invited and I got accepted. And just some few months after, there was no vacancy, but I wrote to North Peel, because I'm a lawyer. I wrote to North Peel Dufferin Community Legal Clinic. I wrote to the executive director that I'm a lawyer, I'm a newcomer, and I would like to serve on the board. So he responded and said, oh, there's no vacancy on the board, and thanks for applying. 10 months later, towards the end of 2023, he wrote back to me again, and oh, you remember that time? No, 10 months down the line, I saw a vacant position for a board director. And I wrote back to him, hi, I wrote to you earlier this year for a board position. He said, but I see on your website that there's a vacancy. I said, oh yeah, I applied. And now I'm serving as a director on North Peel Dufferin Community Legal Clinic. So I went further, just not to take so much of your time. That same value of loving your neighbor as yourself made me to volunteer. I also volunteer with Victoria Order of Nurses. I was going to Mississauga to serve the elderly people lunch. All these were on volunteering basis. I also extended that volunteering attitude to my children. So my second daughter, for example, I got her into the Royal Canadian Sea Cadet. She did not only get into Royal Canadian Sea Cadet, she became the second highest junior shooter in the whole of Ontario region. She's 14 years, she has an intimidating resume. She has a CPR license, she has a boat license. Now she's in high school, she got into the advanced program in the high school. And she says she wants to leave high school a year earlier than her peers. And I said, how is that possible? The next thing, she got approval from the principal, and she got approval from the guidance and counselor. So she's going to do grade 11 instead of 12. So the same thing with my friends. I also tell them when they come to Canada, don't take looking for jobs as priority. Immerse yourself into your community, look for volunteering opportunities. So what this has done for me, my own resume, sometimes I forget all the things I've done. So I've done law practice program with Toronto Metropolitan University. I came into ops. For Johnson & Johnson application for legal internship, there were 180 applicants, many of them schooled in Osgoode, Toronto Metropolitan, and other schools here. I did a school in Canada. 8 people were interviewed and I was given the role. And after the internship, they asked me if I wanted to stay back. I said I didn't want to stay back because I want to go and practice. And I went ahead and I wrote the bar exams just last year. And just last week, 2 weeks ago, on March 10th, I was called to the Ontario Bar. So I'm now a lawyer. And, still going back to love your neighbor as yourself. I keep doing things for people, not expecting returns. And funny enough, not expecting returns, but returns come from places I don't expect. For example, when I was looking for internship, I told Karen that I was looking for internship, I might need her help. She said, no problem, that she knows some lawyers. I didn't get to use your help. Now, I want to set up my law practice, and I said, okay, so what am I going to do? I need an office. I have to start talking to realtors. And someone just came and said, you know what? I have an office in Brampton where I want to practice. And she says she's leaving the whole office, that I should go and take over the office. So I'm going to be practicing my law from Brampton in a community that I live and I want. And what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be doing wills and estates. I'm going to be doing refugee and immigration because I want to genuinely help people. So in summary, I take us back. Let's always immerse ourselves in our community. I know that's a culture already here. Not everybody, but it's a culture that is there. But for newcomers, sometimes it seems very strange because we all want to come and struggle to pay our bills. But I can tell you that in the process of struggling, you can also do good to others. And I forget one example, just being at this hospital just 2 days for my wife was admitted yesterday. The surgery was done at night. I'm already asking them, how can I volunteer in this Bridgewater clinic? Because I see how the doctors and nurses are helping people. So I'm already applied to be a volunteer at the hospital. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for making it here, and you've had obviously lots happening, but what a wonderful story, and it really speaks to your daughter. What a go-getter! You've inspired your family to do the same, to try and get out of that comfort zone. And as soon as you start to see some value with something, wanting to volunteer and being a part of it, I think that is something, you know, we try to encourage the newcomers to participate in as much as possible, because it just helps you get out into community. It helps you be a part of the community that you're now living in. I know we're really tight on time, but I have one more story here that I think is really important for you all to hear. I'd like to introduce Andrea. Andrea Cortez, you might just give her a little wave, don't be shy, is originally from Colombia. She has several years of experience in design, marketing, and communication. She has worked in graphic and product design within marketing and communication departments, blending creativity with her work. Currently, Andrea is an outreach specialist at Caledon Community Services, shameless, where she organizes activities and develops social media strategies and creates content for newcomer clients. Her own experience as a newcomer to Canada gives her a unique perspective, helping her connect with and support clients effectively. Andrea holds a design degree from Pontifical Xaverian University, did I get it? Even close, okay. And a master's in communication and marketing from the University of La Sabana. She also completed a language training course at Seneca College. Outside of work, Andrea is passionate about painting and enjoys spending time in museums and watching movies. She shares this love of creativity with her 2 young children, encouraging them to explore their own artistic interests. So thank you, Andrea, and I believe, Art, you're going to...
I'd like to add something, yes,
okay,
before I invite Andrea to speak. Thank you, Kathy, for sharing all this, and I'd like to add that Andrea came to Canada in 2019. Can you hear me? Yeah? Is it better now? Andrea came to Canada in 2019 with her 2 sons and a husband, and she was eagerly looking for work in the same field, because she brought experience and education from Colombia. She quickly realized that her main barriers were language, lack of job search skills in Canada, and lack of social networks. She knew about CCS from her previous visits when she came to Canada as a visitor. When she was visiting her sister here, and she knew about CCS because she participated in a cafe at that time, conversation circles. But she was not eligible for so many other IRCC-funded services. IRCC, that's Immigration, Citizenship, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada. So when she came in 2019, she had a plan. She came to us and was referred to employment services. She signed up for a link for language classes that addressed all 4 language skills. She slowly built her social network of contacts here locally. She embraced every opportunity that came her way. She first jumped on an opportunity to work at the Exchange Hub. That's where our food supports program is. Then she saw an opportunity to help to get a job at a thrift store, our thrift store, Evolve. She worked there, and she enjoyed the opportunity. And when an outreach specialist position came up, that allowed her to utilize all of her skills and experience that she brought from Colombia in graphic design, in communications. So she applied, and she was successful in securing that job. It's been a pleasure working with Andrea ever since. So Andrea, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah.
Thanks everybody, and thanks for having me today. As Art mentioned, I'm Andrea, and I am a research specialist at Caledon Community Services. I have been living in Canada for 6 years with my husband and my 2 wonderful kids. Through all my journey in this country, I have been a CCS client. Thanks to CCS, I was able to settle in Bolton, improve my language skills, I'm still learning, understand Canadian culture, and enter the Canadian job market. Our journey as a family hasn't always been easy, but CCS has played a big part in helping us reach our goals. Now that I am part of this great organization, I can confidently say that CCS is one of the best ways to newcomers to achieve their goals in Canada. Thank you.
I have a big lump in my throat right now, Andrea. It's been a pleasure working with you these years, and thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for being here tonight. And I just would like to give a big thank you to all of our storytellers for being here. What I would love to do at this point is to see if there are any questions. I know we're running a bit behind schedule, but if there are any questions, I'd like to open that up. I believe there's a microphone right directly in front of me so that we can hear the question. If there is anything, please don't be shy. We're a friendly bunch.
Sorry, do you provide devices for the people for the language skills if they don't have them?
That's an excellent question. In a way we do. We have devices for all of our clients to use when they come to the classroom. We don't lend them out, but we partner with the community, with the Caledon Public Library. So they have a device loaning program, and Caledon residents can actually apply and receive a device along with a Wi-Fi hotspot. This partnership has been working really well with us. I mean, most newcomers already come with some device, at least a tablet or a smartphone. So that might be enough to get them started until they get a device. We work with other third-party device loaning programs, trying to be creative for people who might live just outside of Caledon, if they're not eligible for the Caledon Public Library program. But otherwise, all of our clients eventually get their devices. And even we had cases when people who are newcomers would come our way and say, I'm not sure if I have the skills that are going to be enough digitally wise in order to join your program. And I think I need in-person classes. So we slowly invite them in. We give them the opportunity to sit in person and observe. We hook them up with devices, and we help them develop the skills necessary to join and participate. And now we have more than one client who turned around 180 degrees and says, I don't want in person anymore. I'm very comfortable joining classes from home because I still have the same experience, and I'm learning computer skills, I'm learning digital skills.
Good question, thank you. Any other questions?
How do people, when they come to Canada, how do they get connected to Caledon Community Services?
Great question.
That's a great question. Very often, newcomers realize that they need language training, that they need to improve English. And we have centralized assessment centers in Peel, and well, throughout the GTA as well as throughout Canada. And usually newcomers never miss language assessments because they're mandatory for for anyone to join a government-funded language training program. We are on the list, and we liaise with the assessment centers to help them understand the services we provide better so that they can make a meaningful referral, so that they are confident in terms of they can speak on our behalf, and they're confident in terms of sending clients our way. That's one way. Another way is we have presence on social media. We invest in other ways of advertising elsewhere. We organize outreach events. We are present and present at other organizations' events here where newcomers may be, whether it's a job fair or community information fair or elsewhere. Again, somebody might come to CCS, to our exchange for food supports program, not knowing that they might be eligible for other services if they're newcomers, and they get referred to us as well.
If I could just add to Art's comments, I think one of the things that we've really strived for is that whatever door they come in, wherever a client finds us, whether it's through one of our collaborators or it's through our doors, there's no wrong door. They're going to get to us because we've created that sense that, tell us what you're here for, and let's then talk about what else you might be needing. A lot of times, I think clients, when they first come in, newcomers or otherwise, they're overwhelmed with what's happening in their world. And our goal is really to help understand what their needs are so that we can work with them on a path or a journey to help them with what they need immediate, what they need for the midterm, and what they need in the long term. So it is a journey, and we really try to, with our partners as well as within our own organization, to connect them to the right resources. In my role with overseeing programs, we really try to look at that collaboration and make it as seamless as possible for a client, that they feel that they're being ushered through the journey, making a connection to VMBC, or making the connection to other services or to the assessment centers. Whether we offer that service or not, we want them to feel that they have the support that they need. Thank you for the question.
So I have the pleasure of wrapping up. I want to thank everyone for attending. A lot of individuals I'd very much like to thank. This all started as an idea several months ago, and I called Maria at CCS and said, we think this is a really important thing to be doing and talking about. And, is there someone at CCS that you can connect me with, And so she referred me to Kathy. I had a conversation with Kathy and said, we're thinking of having a panel where we might be able to draw in people from different organizations, even from IRCC, if in fact they were interested. And Kathy just said, wait, she said, I have some contacts. I have the contacts you're looking for.
My people.
And they're all here, and you're absolutely all terrific, as were our friends who have told their lived experiences. And I do have something. I know we're a church, we don't have a big budget, but a small token of appreciation for each of our speakers today. Okay. All right. It's not a lot, but it's a small thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
We all are doing this voluntarily, and I do want to thank volunteers in particular who help. We have lots of food and coffee for people to enjoy afterwards. I do want to thank my co-chair, Sue Kochmeter, who organized the food, and Liz Carter from our committee, and our coffee team, Ellen and Ella back there, thank you. I want to thank James Clark for providing the sound system and looking after things. My good friend Enzo Villa, who's been taking pictures for us, thank you. And of course, Father Don for his guidance and help in organizing this. So thank you again for coming, and I hope we all have some important takeaways to go home with this evening. Please stay and mix with one another, talk to our panelists,